Philadelphia sports scene. The NBA draft, as we started talking about yesterday, is on Thursday this week. And for people that missed the show yesterday, I'm going to be rather upset if the Sixers actually take a pick at number 23. Today, we'll go over a couple of names that the Sixers could take there, but that's a position that I don't want the Sixers to be in. I feel like a pick at 23 right now is a waste of time. I feel like the time to win for the Sixers is right now, not just because Joel Embiid isn't getting any younger, but also because James Harden isn't getting any younger. And from what we saw last year, Harden seems to be aging rapidly. And the question I have asked all the NBA experts that have been on this show over the past several months is whether or not this is the James Harden forever or this is the James Harden who just needs to recover from a hamstring injury. We've got a pretty interesting mix of both, and the only way to really know is to watch the future play out. I am not overly confident that James Harden will ever return to anything that we saw in Houston. Joel Embiid had pointed that out. I need right now, as I have said in the past, Daryl Morey to be the GM that Houston had. We talk about James Harden being the Houston version of James Harden. I need the Houston version of Daryl Morey. I need him to make a deal by Thursday. I don't want to see them take a pick at 23. I want to see them use that pick with a package of the guys that they have been dangling out there. The guys that I mentioned yesterday, the only ones that I didn't mention was Furkan Korkmaz, only because I'm not really expecting to get a lot for Furky. But when it comes to everybody else, I would love to see this 23rd pick packaged in a deal to make them better right now. Now, there's a couple of names that you could look at 23 that I know would be players that they would take. It would take time for them to develop. There is nobody I see at this point in the draft, if they take at 23, if these guys are available, breaking out onto the scene the way even Matisse Thybulle did, let alone, of course, Tyrese Maxey, who we talked about yesterday, was the needle in the haystack. Don't expect that to be the rule. That is absolutely the exception. But looking at some of the things yesterday and reading around, one of the names that jumped out to me, of course, a Duke player, never is really all that attractive, doesn't really have a great long history in the NBA, especially that late in the draft. But Mark Williams was one of the guys that crossed my mind simply because of his defensive prowess. Hell of a defensive player. He can be aggressive. He can block shots. He's got a spring in his step so he can attack the rim as well on the offensive end. He's not a perennial all-star in the making, or he's not anybody that's highly touted or anything like that. But he's just a guy I've seen some of the other NBA experts put in there as a guy that the Sixers could be interested in. The center position there. I know that last year they really missed having somebody after Andre Drummond moved on in the trade involving Ben Simmons and obviously James Harden. For me, the bigger deal in that wasn't Seth Curry. I know a lot of people looked at Seth Curry and said they're really going to miss that outside shooting. I didn't feel like offense was going to be the problem for the Sixers. I thought the problem for the Sixers was going to be defense, rebounding, and somebody to come off the bench and give significant minutes at the center position when he needed to spell Joel Embiid a few minutes. And sure enough, that's exactly the way it played out. Instead, we had to go on this circus of the Doc Rivers talking about how even though Paul Reed was playing well, we all wanted Paul Reed to be out there, and Paul Reed was the best option. We almost had to fight, bitch, and moan as a fan base to just get him a couple of more minutes, even though Doc Rivers, we're not going on the Paul Reed victory tour. So they definitely need somebody that could log a couple of minutes as a backup center other than just Paul Reed. And Williams might be a good example of that. The other is Jaden Hardy, who I love where these guys are coming out of. League Ignite. Now, he's a guard. He's a scorer. He wants to get after the rim. He wants to shoot from the outside. He wants to make sure he is, racking up the points for his team. The intriguing thing is, like a lot of these guys, only 19 years old. So that's another name you can look for. He's a guard coming out of the 23rd spot in the NBA draft. The other name out there, and this is a name I have to say so slowly, Nikola Jovich. Yovich. Yovich? Yovich. That's how you got to say it. Serbian 6'11". Not Nikola Jokic, just to say it slowly, but another center, or forward rather, 6'11", Nikola Jovich. Yovich. I think I'll put the stank on the front of it. The only thing he's kind of known for is no defense and being tall, and he can shoot from the outside. So he's more of the offensive skill set than he is the defensive skill set. I guess the guys like Nicola are kind of, known for that. Those are three names that the Sixers had to take a pick at 23. Those are a few names that you could certainly look out for.